welcome everyone to today's webinar series, right? So we have a lot of community partners on here that do know who I am, but for those who don't, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Brendan Tolan, and I'm the commander of the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion. This battalion is responsible for recruiting for the United States Army and the United States Army Reserves for the 5 counties that make up the greater Philadelphia metro area and then the entire state of New Jersey. And so we have 38 recruiting stations, approximately 300 recruiters across that footprint, trying to do our best to fill the Army's ranks of both the Army and the active duty and the reserves as the recruiting force for this area. I would like to send out a special recognition to our community partners. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of these Zoom kind of virtual meetings, and usually when we go to these ceremonies, you say, "I'd like to welcome everyone to this event." I guess what I should say, though, is we thank you for welcoming us into your homes, as we have all gotten pretty used to, I think, the social distancing and living life in this virtual realm. And really, this whole idea, this series about how we continue the partnerships that we have enjoyed since I've been here and continue, and how we do this now in the new normal, which I'll talk about in a second. Special recognition to Ken Wong, who helped the CASA for Eastern Pennsylvania, who helped set this whole thing up. And I know, Ken, you're on here, and I appreciate you taking part. So this series, this webinar series, right, we're going to do one every 2 weeks, so at least the 4th of July, and then we'll see how much how much following we can gain and how effective it is, and we'll continue whether or not we want to continue at that. But today's is really about embracing the new normal. So just a little background, every year each recruiting battalion does something called an educator's tour. And they're designed to bring influencers from the educational realm onto military installations where you get a lot of questions answered about joining the military, but really designed to try to show the depth and breadth of career opportunities that are available both in the United States Army and the Army Reserves. And at this time, as we kind of figured out, ours was supposed to be May 7th, and we obviously couldn't do that due to the COVID-19 virus. And so we recognize the very uncertain times that we are all living in right now. But we also acknowledge that both for educators, veterans groups, civic groups, businesses, as well as the United States military, it is essential that we continue to move forward. The work of national security does not stop, and so it is important that we find innovative ways to continue to move forward. With that, and it's our responsibility as part of the recruiting battalion to continue to push the Army's message, while simultaneously keeping the dialogue open with our community partners. I think we all recognize that for this foreseeable future, we are going to be unable to execute a lot of the joint events that we have done that benefit both organizations. There are so many partnerships that we have where we get an opportunity to tell the Army's message and to engage quality young men and women in the demographics that we're seeking, but at the same time, partner and show the Army's support to the communities of New Jersey and Philadelphia, which are not greatly represented by large Army bases like you see in the Southeast or the Midwest. And so it's very important that we continue to be out front for our Army in this critical region of the United States. So, one of the things these webinars, so today is all about education, right? And, both the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the state of New Jersey, the governments, the education boards, they are all about this post-secondary career readiness. The idea before that high school was really getting everyone ready for 4-year college, and those that didn't make 4-year college were kind of just left to their own. Those states recognize the importance that, that traditional 4-year college path may not be the right path for everyone. And so, this webinar series and everything that the Army is trying to do is we're trying to plug into, that idea of career readiness. And career readiness has to be the full spectrum of it, right? 2-year community colleges, 4-year colleges, the workforce, trade school, the military and military service needs to give you one of those options. And so that's why we're reaching out to our educational partners during COVID-19. If you look at some of the stats, and look, we all look at the same news. I don't have any inside baseball on this. 40% of individuals making $1,000 right now are currently unemployed. Now, that may not be the same exactly for New Jersey and Philadelphia, but nationwide, that is basically the stat that kind of keeps getting thrown out. And so what the Army is here to tell everyone today is that we are open. We are open for business, and the Army continues to hire. And unlike some things you may see in the civilian world, we're hiring with the same opportunities and the same benefits that we have always offered. It's not, we're not looking at this like, well, this is COVID, so this changes this, that, or the other thing. It's the same opportunities. And, we hope to highlight those opportunities and really continue with the engagement, the discussion about what those opportunities are so that educational influencers can impact young men and women as they're trying to make their decisions. We have a bunch of high school graduates, a bunch of college graduates who are going out into a very uncertain world right now. And, who knows what the job market is going to look like? Who knows if schools are going back in session? We just don't know those things right now. But we do want to say that the Army is open. We're hiring. We're doing it safely. The training at the BCTs and the AITs are doing it with social distancing and quarantine and risk mitigations put in place. But we are open for business, and we are ready to talk about the 150 plus career fields that the Army has to offer. In about a minute here, I'm going to show you a video titled Brave. It is the United States Army's most recent video that highlights some of the recent struggles in the world and kind of how the Army views their role in this whole thing. And it's about a minute, and we're going to get into our guest speaker introduction. I do want to highlight two special individuals who are here from unique organizations that we partner with. The first is John Henry, who is here. He's going to talk very briefly about the steam tank. John is from the New Jersey School Board Association, and we have a long history of partnering with the New Jersey School Board. One of our newer and emerging partnerships is with the Philadelphia School District. And today, Ariel Peterson is going to be here to talk about some of the things we're doing. And her focus and her office's focus that she works in is really about this post-secondary career readiness. And to John and Ariel, can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on and educational standpoint, what's happening in the future. So this video, Brave, yes, oh yeah, absolutely. So this video recognizes the heroes of this most recent struggle of COVID-19. Nurses, doctors, scientists, engineers, biomedical specialists who are working every day to keep us safe and eventually eradicate this virus. And so Abe, if you could go ahead and play the video.
Hey Mike, can you do screen share? I can't host participant disable screen share.
You should have the option.
The history of this moment will not be written by historians. It's being written by the brave. The ones who endure what most would avoid. Who trust themselves against waves of doubt. Who stepped forward in a world that stopped. So as this history is written, and we all look to turn the page, we invite you to be brave with us.
Okay, so maybe a few technical difficulties there, but anyone can go on YouTube and watch the new Army release video. But really, what the Army is trying to message here is that we recognize who the real heroes are in this fight. But again, a lot of times when we think Army, we just think kind of rifle, boots, Afghanistan, those kinds of things. But we have tried to continue to push the idea that there is over 150 plus career fields in the Army, and they include, biomedical MOSs and healthcare workers and engineers. I mean, they're setting up field hospitals at the LaCura Center in Philadelphia. That's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, trade, professions. And so the Army's got the full depth and vet of career fields. So we're going to move on to our guest speaker. We're so honored today to have the former Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Daly, as our guest speaker today. He's a native of Palmerton, Pennsylvania, and in 1989 he embarked upon an impressive 30-year career as an infantry soldier and leader. During this impressive career, he held every enlisted leadership position from mechanized infantry, in the mechanized infantry, ranging from a Bradley fighting vehicle commander all the way up to a command sergeant major. 4 combat tours in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and New Dawn. And then he also deployed in support of Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield. He earned a Bronze Star with Valor for his leadership during the 4th Infantry Division's 2-month battle for Sadr City in 2008. In 2011, Sergeant Major of the Army Daly was selected to serve as the Command Sergeant Major for the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command. And for those educators out there, that's the Army's command responsible for our professional and personal education. Sergeant Major of the Army Daly was sworn in as the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army on January 30th, 2015, which means he was the top enlisted soldier for the United States Army. He served in that position for over 4 years, ultimately relinquishing it in 2019. And then in January 2020, after retirement, he has continued to fight for the Army's, all of our different programs and initiatives, as joining the executive team of the Association of the United States Army as the Vice President for NCO and Soldier Programs. He is living in Palmerton, Pennsylvania. I think he's in Northern Virginia right now, but he's married to his wife, Holly, for 26 years, and they have 1 son, Dakota. Sergeant Major of the Army, I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, and we welcome your remarks.
Sir, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And as Colonel Toolin said, I am live from just outside the greater Washington, D.C., our beautiful nation's capital, which is a little less full right now. And that's kind of nice because normally you fight in traffic in the mornings here. But just a few days ago, and actually this evening, I will be back in the great state of Pennsylvania, where I was born and raised and belong. So your mission just up front is very personal to me. I am from that area. I take a lot of pride in saying that fact, and the people of the greater state of Pennsylvania are phenomenal people, and the community partners that support you each and every day. Thank you for what you do. Colonel Toolin, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and again, thank our community partners for all you do to assist our team up there in the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion. This is a critical mission. Our nation has to have an Army. It must happen. And it needs good people, competent, capable young men and women who are willing to sacrifice in order for all of us to be safe and secure. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my story of why I chose to serve and the value and benefit of that. And hopefully you can communicate that. Our recruiters, obviously, to the young men and women they're trying to recruit, and our community partners who are out there talking about the good things that our Army does for our nation every single day. I also real quickly want to do a quick shout out to Casa Ken Wong, a good personal friend of mine, and a little paid announcement. Casa Ken Wong and I will be doing a podcast next week, and you can tune in to listen to that podcast. Casa Ken Wong is going to talk about the life of a CASA, which is a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army in northeastern Pennsylvania, and you can tune into that at the AUSA website. As Colonel Toolin said, I'm currently serving as the Vice President for Non-Commissioned Officer and Soldier Programs. Accompanying me today are 2 of my teammates. One is Command Sergeant Major retired Troy Welsh. She is the Director of NCO Soldier Programs, and Victoria McAdoo, and she always yells at me because I don't pronounce her name right, and I got it right today, hopefully. And she is the Executive Assistant for our team here that works so hard to coordinate these efforts and do the things that we do. And bottom line, so we don't spend a lot of time on that today, the Association of the United States Army works very hard to inform, educate, and communicate and connect community partners with the United States Army. And we are synchronized at the hip with the Army leadership on a day-to-day basis. Actually, today I'll be doing a live televised streaming with the Sergeant of the Army, and you can tune in to that on AUSA's website. It begins at 12 o'clock today, and you can actually write in and ask the Sergeant of the Army questions, and he will welcome questions from soldiers, family members, community partners, or anybody out there that's wants to log in. So if you want to take an opportunity to take a look at that today, we'd appreciate it. So why the U.S. Army? I find it no better way to demonstrate except through personal experience. I was a young man growing up in northeastern Pennsylvania. Grew up in the 1970s and 80s, and during that time frame, unfortunately, the Northeast and Pennsylvania, which was part of the Industrial Revolution, was experiencing a great recession. My father had served. My brother had served before me. Both of my grandfathers had served, and since I can remember as a little child, my father talked about his positive experience and the impact that the United States Army made on him for the rest of his life. But one thing I want to tell you about my father and his Army story that's so valuable yet today is that time period of which I mentioned. There was a recession going on in the United States, and Pennsylvania was very hard hit. My father came out of service from Germany during the Vietnam era. He was a communications specialist, and he needed to get a job to help raise my mother and, at the time, his brand new baby son, who was just born, my oldest brother. And he wanted to get in the business of what he did while he was a soldier in communications. So he went to work for a local telephone corporation. And when he went in the interview, the room was full. He said there was roughly 100 people there for about 1 or 2 jobs. And when he talked to the supervisor, when it was his turn to walk in, he said, "Do you have any experience, young man?" And my father looked at him and said, "Well, I was a soldier." He said, "What'd you do in the Army?" He said, "I was a communications specialist." He said that was the sole reason while he was hired. I made it my life mission as a Sergeant of the Army to bring back that same value to our service in the technical skills that our soldiers gain to the American public and the workforce out there through the Credentialing Assistance Program, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But for that conversation my father had with me as a young man still hits with me today. The Army gave my father, who didn't graduate 8th grade, an opportunity to serve his nation. And that service continued in his community back home. He worked his way through that company for 45 years and became the superintendent of that telephone company. And I know for a fact, had he not been a soldier, had he not been a communications specialist in the United States Army, he would have never been given that opportunity and never been able to raise a family like he did. And the United States Army did that for him. And he used to tell us how much opportunity there is. For me, the choice was easy, and for all the recruiters out there, I was the young man that walks in the door that you'd love to have day after day. It was, where do I sign? I want to be a soldier. I didn't have to be convinced. My father had done a phenomenal job of that. But that's what we have to do now, is we have to educate what I call the influencers in the United States, our community partners, about the value of service, and I'll talk about that a little bit at the end. So that's my story. I joined the Army. My intention was to do just 2 years. I was a 2-year soldier until I ran into a phenomenal non-commissioned officer named Staff Sergeant Davis in Germany. Towards the end of my 2-year tenure, he sat me down and told me that he thought I'd be a great non-commissioned officer. Now, fortunately or unfortunately for some of you, that led to me becoming the Sergeant of the Army some 30 years later. But he was right. It was what I was called to do. It was my calling in life, and I wouldn't change a thing, especially if you told me I was going to be the Sergeant of the Army at the end of that wonderful rainbow. But I don't regret a single day of service. There were some tough days throughout my 30-year career, as you heard Colonel Toulon say. 4 combat deployments as early as Desert Storm, and some very tough fights, but none of them were bad. There wasn't a single bad day that I ever experienced in the United States Army. And the knowledge and skills and attributes that I learned, although I got to transition to this great job working for the Association of the United States Army, would have carried me into any occupation I knew that, my heart desired in my post-service career. And it gave me an incredible opportunity to raise a family, to raise a son who is now an aerospace engineer working for NASA through the Boeing Aerospace Division, who was the first man in our family to go to college after high school as a result of the Montgomery GI Bill that I received from my service. There's incredible stories of what I call opportunity. The Army is hiring. The Army is an organization that takes care of its people, and one that provides opportunity to young men and women in this nation that no other organization can. So I guess you could tell I'm very passionate about my service and my upbringing in the great state of Pennsylvania, and what my father bestowed on me as a young man about service and sacrifice to this great nation that's carried me through my life and benefited myself and my family. So a little bit about the safety. The influencers, mothers and fathers, are always worried about their young men and women, and as they should be. They spent their entire lives raising their children, and when they choose an occupation, they want to make sure that the organization they're going to, whether it be a business or the United States Army or any military service, is that the welfare and care of their individual young men and women are going to be well taken care of. The United States Army, as you heard Colonel Tulin mention, has taken every step necessary to make sure that we are conducting day-to-day basis very safely, especially with regards to COVID-19. Social distancing, preventive measures, screening, quarantining are all in place to make sure that we prevent the spread of this current pandemic. The great thing about being a member of the United States Army is that they have a world-class, second-to-none medical care and health system. And that starts from the day they join and every single day. They have communities throughout the United States and our installations that are safe and secure, that are operating independently because they have their own grocery stores, their own gas stations, shopping malls, and activities for the families to do during this time, to include their own school districts. The Army, and we stay in direct communication with them on a regular basis, is taking every step necessary to preserve their force. But they're going one step further. The United States Army is well into the fight with our civilian health agencies and all those in the United States, making sure that we are preserving our way of life as a nation against the pandemic of COVID-19. They're out front and making sure that our healthcare professionals are contributing with our civilian healthcare professionals in all the major cities. They're building emergency hospitals at alarming and unprecedented rates to make sure that if this pandemic does spread or come back and boomerang, as you've heard in the news, that we will be prepared. And even more incredible, the phenomenal medical experts that we have that are trained by some of the best education facilities in this nation are in the United States Army. And they're working side by side in their laboratories to find a cure. My level of confidence in their ability to do so is 100%. They've demonstrated that just recently with things like Ebola and other viruses. We will get there. We will get through this together. And I can assure you the United States Army will be out front, side by side with all those who are fighting this current pandemic and our nation's heroes. So when you're choosing to send your son or daughter to an organization, the choice of the United States Army is one that is safe and secure and who has demonstrated for over 245 years that they will take care of their people first and foremost and do everything they can do to preserve our way of life, the health and safety of the people who are within this organization, and the health and safety of the American people. Now, to talk a little bit about what I touched on earlier, why I joined the Army and the impactful story that my father shared with me and the results of the fruits of his labor of service, how they contributed to him being prosperous in our great community in Palmerton, Pennsylvania, still exists today, and even more opportunities exist. When you talk to a young man about service to our nation, of course, the first thing that you talk about are the things that you saw in that video. There is no other occupation that is more fulfilling than service to a country. And that being the service to the greatest country in the world, the United States, is the most fulfilling experience that one could do. But there's more than that. Education, as which we know all of our mothers and fathers in America are concerned about. The United States Army educates from the day they receive those young men and women to the day they retire. They provide unprecedented, unmatched benefits and opportunities for further education during service and post-service that are unmatched by any organization in the United States of America, to include things like the GI Bill, which pays for a 4-year degree. If you extend your service, you can transfer those benefits to your wife, your husband, or your siblings. And they can use and utilize those benefits to their fullest capability. While in service, they can take advantage of opportunities like tuition assistance that does not count against their Montgomery GI Bill, that pays full tuition for the classes they take while they're in service, so they can work on their degree simultaneously as they work through their core studies to fulfill the requirements for them and their military occupational skills in the United States Army. And as a result of hard work by the great team at TRADOC, you heard Colonel Tulin talk about them earlier, and the team in the Army G1 and Department of Defense, new to this year, the United States Army for 2020, in the first time in our history, is the advent of what is called Credentialing Assistance Program. The Credentialing Assistance Program is designed to be the sister to the Tuition Assistance Program. It provides our young men and women who serve the ability to use federal assistance dollars to pursue academic licenses, certificates, and credentials while they're in service. Why is this important? Prior to this pandemic, our nation was experiencing unprecedented employment rates, and we will return to that in the very near future. I know we will. I have all the confidence in this nation to bounce back. But one of the things that we were lacked in the United States of America is skilled tradespeople. There were 6 million jobs before this pandemic hit that were open and only available to people who had skilled trades. It's something that we've shied away from as a result of focusing our attention on traditional education, which is good. We need people to go to universities and colleges, but we also need people to work in the skilled industry trades to keep some of those precious skills in the United States of America and keep those jobs in manufacturing and IT and all types of hands-on skills in this country in order to maintain our economic viability. That's why we've invested the time and energy to be able to provide this opportunity, and to the good graces of Congress, they approved us to start what is called the Credentialing Assistance Program. Just another example of the great benefit of service to our nation. So I know there's a couple other speakers on today, and I can stay on till at least 11 o'clock, and I apologize if I have to drop off before I finish answering all questions. But what I promise you is, if you have a question and you get it to the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion and I did not have an opportunity to answer it today, I will get an opportunity to answer that, and I'll get feedback through Colonel Tulin and his team. It's been an honor and privilege to serve this great nation. It's an honor and privilege to say that I'm from the great state of Pennsylvania, and it's been an honor and privilege to spend some time with the great recruiters in the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion. Thank you.
Sergeant Major of the Army Daly, thank you so much for those words. You know, I think that your story is extremely powerful, but I think that the real power lies in the fact that your story is, you know, it's available to regular men and women in the United States of America, right? And like the power of what you did with your career is born out of the opportunity that any single one of the qualified young men and women who are in both Philadelphia and New Jersey could do by just doing what you did, which is stepping up and saying, yeah, and you're right. More times than not, people that do temporary tours or longer tours in the Army started with, hey, I'm only joining for 3 years. I just need that college thing, and then I am out of here. And they find that they love it. And so I thank you for your words. We are going to have these two guest speakers. We're going to try to get to the Q&A, but I promise that no matter what questions come in, I will get them to you, and then we can answer it. But thank you so much. Okay, so we are going to move on now, and I am going to introduce Ms. Ariel Peterson. So her title, she's the Senior Project Manager for the Office of Post-Secondary Readiness in the School District of Philadelphia, right there on North Broad Street in Philadelphia. And she's going to talk about some of the school updates and some other things. I do want to just highlight for everyone, you know, we are looking to partner. We are looking to reach out and be partners in a two-way street, you know, things that, you know, both benefit whoever we're partnering with, but that the opportunity to get our message. And, you know, Secretary of the Army McCarthy went to visit a few key people in Philadelphia, Councilman O, a few other people, and one of the calls was to the Philadelphia School District. And over the last year, we have had a burgeoning relationship, and Ms. Peterson's been a huge role in that. She's come to all of our events. We're excited about the future with the Philadelphia School District. So, Ariel, welcome, and we're all yours.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And good morning to everybody. And special thank you to Lieutenant Colonel Tulin and the whole U.S. Army Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion for inviting me to speak today. My name is Ariel Peterson, and I am a Senior Project Manager in the Office of Post-Secondary Readiness at the School District of Philadelphia under the leadership of Superintendent Height, Chief Academic Officer Dr. Malika Savoy Brooks, and Ali Robinson Rogers. So basically, our office works to support the district's Anchor Goal 1, which is that 100% of students will graduate college and career ready. What does that mean? Well, to me, it means that we get a chance to really work besides a powerhouse of educators, leaders, and partners to really empower and prepare our students in all grades with the knowledge, skills, and tools necessary for post-secondary success. And that success really it can be defined as just moving forward. No matter which pathway, we know that young adults have so many opportunities, whether that be going to college, entering the workforce, going into the trade, or of course the military. And the way that we do this is really through our 3-point strategic plan that consists of really 3 parts. We have post-secondary awareness, where we want to make sure that our students have access to a wide range of opportunities, just to increase their awareness of like those things: college, workforce, military, and careers. Then we have post-secondary exposure, where students will develop a deeper understanding and exploration of post-secondary opportunities aligned with their interests and future goals. So we want to make sure that we're, helping them off of what they want to do. And then we have this post-secondary immersion, where students will take a full advantage of educational and workforce development opportunities and experiences prior to graduation. The way that our office really implements this is through our various programming, such as Gear Up. We have 17 amazing college and career coordinators who are embedded in 22 of our high schools. We have JRTC programs, CTE programs, which expose our students to various trades. We have senior year only program, junior achievement, and also we use the college and career platform Naviance. And of course, we do this also through our partnerships with organizations like the U.S. military. And this year we have focused our focus on just developing more of a strategic partnership with not only the U.S. Army, but all of the branches of the military. And it really started with a conversation from leadership of this battalion. From that, we were not only able to really expand our own knowledge of what the Army and the military has to offer, but also look at the bigger picture and possibilities of those careers that the military does have to offer, because it's very important that our young adults do understand it's not just about going off to fight a war. No, there are valuable careers that, as you can see, you can have a long-lasting career in the military and in the Army. And just from that, we really began to find ways to make sure that we as a district included and highlighted the military as a valuable option for all of our students. And that began with debunking some myths, right? For me, I had a very basic understanding. My grandfather served, I have brothers, I have cousins. That was what the men in my family did, but I didn't really understand the full scope. And for me, it was just very enlightening to sit down and really learn from Giovanna and Mike and the rest of the team, Captain Carol, just about, those opportunities. And from that, some of the things that we have done as a district to support the U.S. military is we sent out a memo just highlighting the U.S. military and U.S. Army as a valuable post-secondary opportunity, really, really highlighting and emphasizing the endless career and leadership opportunities a young adult would receive if they were to enlist. Another thing that we've done is connect them directly, the battalion, directly to our teams in our schools, such as those coordinators who have invited them into classrooms to speak. And just about every single event that we've had from the district standpoint, as well as from the schools. And that includes both college and career fairs that we host. It's very important that, we invite the military and our other partners in as much as possible, because the more that a young adult see somebody, the more inclined they are to, if they have that interest, right, the more inclined they are going to be in order to go and speak with a representative. This year has been amazing. I know COVID sort of, as we are all moving into this online learning, we have also planned some large events, such as our first ever Military Opportunities Days, which has been postponed due to COVID-19, but we are looking to offer this sort of in an online format, and we're working that out. But this Military Opportunities Day is going to be a first of its kind, especially for the district. This is going to be a hands-on experience where students who have that interest will be able to come and speak with representatives from the Army and the other branches, and have this hands-on. They'll be able to explore some of those military careers and equipment so they can really make that connection. And this is just one of those many examples of just ways that we've worked together in order to strengthen our partnership, as well as to expose our young adults to the U.S. Army and, to get them to be able to enlist. We have also partnered on some of the larger district events, such as College Signing Day, and now due to COVID, we're moving into this virtual graduation, where we're going to be celebrating the class of 2020 and the students who have decided to move forward in their post-secondary journey. And a part of that, again, is highlighting our young adults who are going into the military and celebrating them. And this year, I'm very excited that we have a student who was accepted to West Point, and that's a big deal, right? We want to celebrate our young adults that are doing amazing things. And again, highlighting the military, highlighting those opportunities that these young men and women are going into is so important. And I say that also just because as we talk about influencers, it's much more than us as educators and members of the community, but also think about peer-to-peer, right? For us to highlight a young adult that's going into the military, that might be somebody else's dream, and that's something that they can work towards as well. And if they see that their peers are also doing that, it makes them a little bit more like, oh yeah, I see him doing this thing, I want to go ahead and also do that. And one of the last things that we've also done is just added a military component to our college and career readiness page on the district website. And so it gives you basic information, as well as it will connect them directly to recruiters in order just to make that connection. They may have questions, they may have different things. Our coordinators are we have a hotline to where young adults, seniors, and students can call, or they can email us to get more information. But through our partnership, just having that point person that we can either do a soft handoff to, or even they can just input their information, has made a big deal. But this is just some of the different things that we've done, especially in this COVID-19 world that we're living in, to be able to just highlight our partnership with not only the military, but more specifically the U.S. Army, and just, again, bring it to the forefront about how important our military is. I'm very, very thankful and excited and energetic to always work with Mike Giovanna, Captain Carroll, Lieutenant Colonel Tulip, and just the whole entire battalion, because it's just been an amazing experience. And I'm excited to continue and grow a partnership. Thank you.
Ariel, thank you so much. So there's two thoughts right before we transition to another one. So the first one is, I was going to be like, I think you guys can all see what kind of energy Ariel brings to her job, right? And she has come and supported all of our events, and this is the energy she brings, right? The passion she brings about getting young people opportunities. And again, a person might say, hey, look, I've heard of the military support, but I'm going this route. As long as that's what ends up happening, we're all for it. We just want to make sure we're providing all the opportunities. So the second thought, so that kid, I think he's from Northeast High School, if I remember, the kid going to West Point. The recruiter, who, that doesn't count for us. He doesn't count as an enlistment for us because he's going to West Point. The recruiter who wrote a letter and some other things on behalf of this individual was so excited. I still have the text message with his acceptance letter that was, was taped, was screenshotted for me. So we're rooting for the kids in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. Thank you, Ariel, so much for that. So all right, we're going to transition now to our next update. It's going to come from Mr. John Henry. Now, John works at the New Jersey School Board Association and is really in so it's iSTEAM. STEAM, STEM stuff, and the Sustainable Schools Specialist. Now, I'll just say up front, we have a very solidified relationship to the school board. But I don't want to steal his thunder in describing that. But John, again, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So on behalf of New Jersey School Boards Association, thank you, a huge thank you for inviting me here today just to share a little bit about our partnership. And I do want to start with a little history of this because I think it's important. And by the way, this is the only partnership in the United States that I am aware of, unless somebody else heard something other than that, of its kind, where the Army has actually partnered with a school boards association and has created programs such as Steam Tank and others that I'm going to describe. So I just want to start out by saying this as well. Over the past 5 years, I have come to know many Army personnel in a way that I would have never have if this didn't happen, and I consider them my friends, like Mike and Giovanna and the sergeants that have come in to be our fellows to serve at School Boards Association. Again, another first. So it's just amazing to me that my father was in the Army. He served in World War II, and I knew very little about what he did. And I knew very little about what the Army had to offer when I was in high school. I had the college track. That's what I did. I don't even remember anybody even providing me any opportunity back then. So I had no idea. And school boards, and I think a lot of schools had no idea. We had to, this partnership represented opening a door to actually looking at what our Army is all about and the incredible skills and leadership and career sets and career skills that you can have by being in the Army, and what we could do together, which is so much stronger than doing it alone. So a little bit of history. So 5 years ago, our president at the time, John Bellina, president of School Boards Association, attended an Army Ed tour, and he came back and he met with our executive director, Larry Feinsod, and myself, and said, you know, I think there's something here with schools, and we should pursue this. So I reached out, or Giovanna reached out to me. In any event, we connected, and we started to brainstorm ways that we can actually work together, and we were in uncharted territory. This is the first time we were doing that. The Army had programs, we had programs, but how do we work together? So we started down that road of we were going to do a design challenge, and we had some schools that we were going to do it with, and that didn't kind of work out. So during that time, we pitched the idea of actually having a sergeant placed at school board's headquarters for the first time, and it was approved. Sergeant First Class George Johnson was placed there, and I remember the first day he walked into the office. He had this white shirt on and a tie, and he was really out of his element, and I was out of my element, trying to say what can we do here. So we started to do educational programs, and within that year, we actually came up with the idea to do a design challenge called Steam Tank. And so Steam Tank was born at that time. The first year, we had 32 submissions for applications to be in it. And by the way, just Steam Tank is an open-ended entrepreneurial design challenge. That is, when I mean open-ended, I mean the students get 3 things that they have to do: invent something new that doesn't exist yet, modify an existing product, or solve a real-world problem. It's all student-centered. It's entrepreneurial, meaning that they could take this as far as they want and even create a new business or get a patent, and that was the original concept. Now, fast forward, we had this last year, 4 years into it, we had over 660 applications for submission with 420 teams that were selected to move on to the regionals. Of course, that's not happening right now because of COVID-19. So I think during that time, which I want to make sure that I'm real clear on this, is like school board members, our colleagues who I work with, we did not know what the Army was about. And I'm circling back here because this is important. Once we actually started to learn what the Army had to offer, the career opportunities, the leadership skills, we started to incorporate some of those things into Steam Tank by offering leadership and team building opportunities for board members, students, teachers as part of the Steam Tank community. It started to get really incredible because then teachers and students were taking advantage of it prior to actually doing a Steam Tank challenge. I was being also at that time, I was being sent all over the country to different Army bases to learn about the Army. In fact, I went to Fort Hood, and that was, I believe it's a mechanized division of the Army, and I had the opportunity to jump out of a plane at 14,000 feet with the Golden Knights. So that was I was all in, so to speak. So it was a pretty incredible experience. I got to meet tons of people there and learned more about the Army. And little by little, we started building this incredible partnership where the Army and school boards and even other partners were offering workshops, for example, for school board members, because we are the association that trains board members and, of course, other staff members as well. So we created this RUI STEAM Ready series that the Army was part of. They're at our workshop, our annual workshop in Atlantic City, which is the largest leadership conference of the year. They sponsored the steam tank area on the workshop floor for the actual finals of the event. So every step of the way, we've been hand in hand, and it's been such a great ride with them, with the Army rather, I'm sorry. So to date, we've had this last year would have been, it's the 4th sergeant that has been placed at school boards. And what is interesting about that is because each one of them had a different MOS, and each one brought something different to the table, which taught me, which taught our colleagues, which brought something else different to the school. That ended up, you know, the students got a little piece of that as well, as learning a little bit of a career set and leadership skills that they had. And I keep mentioning the leadership because we talk about career readiness. So I think the Army really exemplifies that career readiness. And that is a big initiative for school boards and schools and in New Jersey right now. In fact, New Jersey school boards put together a task force on the non-college bound learner. So we realized that there was a lot of emphasis towards focused on college tracks, but what about the technical skills? So we actually come together with a group of people, and we put together a task force, and we came out with a white paper, and I believe there was 69 actually suggestions for improving the knowledge in, you know, career readiness and actually technical skills. So it has been an incredible ride with the Army. I am so privileged and honored to be part of this. We continue to build our relationships. So embracing the new normal. So since we couldn't do the steam tank regionals and actually do face-to-face, what we did is we transitioned to what we're calling steam tank at home. And the beauty of the steam tank at home is because it's all delivered up, obviously virtual, but now we're including parents and the community members if they wish. So we create it every week. We do a Facebook Live, and most of the time we have a design challenge in keeping the spirit of steam tank alive. And it goes out to, it's posted on our website, and the link, I posted it right up front and in the beginning of the chat. You can go there and check them out. But each one is designed not only for students to do, but for their parents as well, their siblings, their uncles, their aunts, just to be part of that. Because what we're finding in schools right now, while we're embracing this new normal, is that a lot of teachers are still disconnected with some of their students. They don't have the time that they had. There might not be technology to deliver this. And what do the parents do? The parents are home, and what do they do? So we are starting to move into how do we actually do some minor training with some parents to actually help the students learn like a design challenge, or for that matter, other content areas. So we are moving in that direction with Steam Tank, just to support the needs at home. We offer mentoring sessions for students. I've met with several classes since the COVID-19, Zoom or some other platforms that the schools are using. Well, I will chime in, and we chime in and actually speak to the students. So embracing the new normal has been interesting. We're all learning different platforms and a new way of delivery system. I don't know what the future is going to hold come September, if Steam Tank will actually be all virtual or will be go face-to-face. We are still planning on opening up our application in October for the 2021 Steam Tank series. So we hope that it goes well and we're back to normal, whatever the new normal looks like. But again, that's just a quick snapshot of where we are and where we started and where we are right now. I truly hope that we continue this relationship, and I can only see it getting better and providing these opportunities and knowledge that the schools, they need to know what's available with the Army. And I think before this relationship, I'm not so sure that was happening. I know that a lot of people want to, shake hands with the Army and thank you for your service, but a lot of schools were saying, no, we don't want that. And it was because I don't think they realized what the opportunities were, like all of the different career opportunities. And it was mentioned on this webinar, like the financial opportunities and benefits and all of the other benefits. So we were part of that. That was part of our goal, is to say, you know what, the schools need to be aware of this. So let's at least make it aware of them, and then they can make their own choices from there. And so that was also what this partnership represented as well, is bringing this information to the schools, and hopefully, you know, they can see the benefit. And by putting together Steam Tank and having his leadership and team building opportunities, then they took advantage of it. So that's a quick snapshot of it. I know that there's a lot more of the history that I'm going to have to leave out because in the interest of time. But again, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. It's always a pleasure to meet with my colleagues and friends from the Army.
Hey, John, thank you so much, right? So, again, real two quick thoughts, right? So the first is, because you didn't mention it, because I think this is amazing. So I was there for the Steam Tank Awards in Atlantic City, where, you know, you guys allowed me to be up on stage or up front, where we actually presented all the awards for the different age groups or whatever. And if I remember correctly, the team that won, like the overall winner, I mean, these girls were not high school. I mean, they were like middle, middle school kind of.
Fifth graders.
And didn't they invent a shoe? Didn't they invent a shoe that expands as kids grow? And Skechers actually like kind of said, "Hey, we want to take a look at this."
That's correct. So these are the details that I can't share because we just don't have enough time. But there are hundreds of stories like that that are emerging from this, from our partnership and from Steam Tank. And yes, that team invented an expandable shoe. They called it the Pro Stretcher. And what they did is we encourage in Steam Tank for them to reach out to subject matter experts, including the Army, hopefully Army first. But they in this case, they reached out to the company Skechers, and Skechers actually helped them design the prototype for an expandable shoe. It was a peg system. And I thought it was brilliant. And they actually were on TV. You know, we had interviews with them, and their story can actually be found in a video. I don't have it right now, but I can get it to anybody if they want to see it. It's up on our YouTube channel. But yes, incredible. And we have three divisions, or three categories, you know, elementary, middle school, and high school. So, and the elementary and the middle school kids are crushing it. They're just doing an incredible job with coming up with inventions like that.
Well, if I come up with any problems, I may send it your way, right? Have them solve it for us, right? The second I just want to make, right, is Dr. Feinsod, who's the president of the New Jersey School Board, Patty, John, you know, Vince. When I see these guys, I see John Henry on the Zoom right now. You know, I don't look at like, oh, that's John Henry from the New Jersey. I'm like, oh, there's John Henry. He's our teammate, right? And that's how I feel about this relationship. And again, John, thank you so much for participating. So, Gio, what I'd like to do is, since our Major League Army Daily, I think he's still on and he's got to go here. I know there's one correct question directed for him. If maybe we could get that question answered, and then we'll go into the education specialist update real quick, and then answer any other questions. Would that be okay?
Of course, sir. It's fine. Of course, we'll read the question. I see there's a question. The first one that came in is, how do you think COVID-19 will change the Army? How will this pandemic change the way the Army trains its personnel?
That's a great question, and I appreciate the opportunity. And sir, thanks again for this opportunity. I will have to drop off here very shortly, but you know, as a matter of fact, it's literally one of the questions I'll be asking the Sergeant Major of the Army, and I'll answer it for you now. But if you want to listen to his answer, it's actually question number 1 that I'll be asking him today at noon. What you're going to see is a couple things. You're going to see a near-term change, right? So that's the impact that we're all feeling throughout the nation today. We got to take extreme measures to prevent the spread of this disease. Without a vaccine, the only known way to stop is through isolation. So you have to take the host away from the virus. And the Army is doing everything they can do to mitigate that. Now, I alluded to it in my conversation before, and this is why it's a great place for the Army to be. One, it is a community full of mostly young men and women who are healthy. They exercise on a daily basis. They eat a regular, balanced diet in our dining facilities. And the Army is going to continue to promote those things. But within the Army, they exercise social distancing and isolation. So once you get to things like basic training, they go through a quarantine period, they go through testing. Really nobody outside of that sphere is going to be interacting with them. So they can train safely and normally after they get past that first phase of testing and identification, because they have the same drill sergeant that works with them every day. So they'll do some things that will change the way they train, but largely they're going to still accomplish the mission. In our core units, they took a break to reel back operational readiness training to take a look at how they would put measures in place to mitigate, and they've done that. But one of the things the Army has to continue to do is be prepared for a national response, whether that be internal to our nation here at home, like the pandemic, or one from abroad. So the Army can't stop. There's currently soldiers serving overseas. They will do risk mitigation before they come back and put them through a quarantine process to make sure it's safe for them to come home. There's all kinds of measures that the Army's doing. Now, what I talked about, that's the initial term. So it's a lot like what you see going on throughout the nation today, all the things we're doing to stop the spread of this pandemic. For long term, obviously, my confidence level, as I expressed earlier, is 100% that we will find a vaccine for this virus. But it will change the way we think and how we operate. We put soldiers in places all around the world. When I left as a Sergeant Major of the Army, there was soldiers in 140 countries across the world. And they are well vaccinated for every known type of illness. The Army does a phenomenal job at staying ahead of that. Their health care specialists do incredible things. There are gates that every soldier must meet before they deploy to certain areas of operation because of known exposure to those medical hazards and risks. And what I think is the Army is going to continue to become more aware of how to prevent these things in the future. So you'll see some slight changes in the long term with regards to medical preparedness. But largely, I think once we get a cure for this, we'll go back to our regular training, and you'll see that the Army is going to continue to do the things that it has to do to keep our nation safe. In the short term, there is going to be some delay. In long term, I have all confidence in the world that we'll get back to the readiness training requirements that existed prior to this, and our Army will be fully ready, as they are now and today, to be able to meet any demand this nation has to endure. Thank you.
Hey, Sergeant Major, thank you so much. I know you're dropping off right now. Enjoy your talk with Sergeant Major of the Army. He's a 13 Bravo, right? So, you're going to have to raise your game, right? You're talking to a field artillery soldier right there. So,
second best MLS in the Army. If I could, just 2 seconds, and I know I've been using a lot of time, is just say thank you to all the recruiters out there. Thank you for what you do. Our Army is built in hometown America by a staff sergeant. That is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And it's a people organization that takes great people to build it, sustain it, and live it. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you to the community partners in the greater Philadelphia area and our Casa Ken Wong up there. That is my hometown. I have a vested interest, so do a great job up there because I want to come home to a great place to live. You've kept it that way, and I know it'll be that way when I finally fully retire. But there's nothing like the great state of PA. And the only last question I have, because you always got to end on a fun note, is which probably will cause extreme controversy on this thing, is where is the best place to buy a cheesesteak in Philadelphia? Colonel Tulin, let's hear your opinion.
I would go with Diva Sandro's over near Manayunk.
All right,
So,
Dave, God bless each and every one of you. Army strong.
All right, Horse. Thank you so much. Okay, so Gino, we're going to head over to your update now for what we're doing with our education programs.
Thank you, sir. Well, as Colonel Tulin said, I'm the education services specialist for the battalion, so I'm pretty much the liaison between our soldiers and the education community, both at the secondary and post-secondary level. So I really encourage all of you to reach out to me and maybe brainstorm, just as we did with Ariel and John, just potential programs we can create, collaborate on. We really look forward to working with you. So thank you so much for actually joining us today, because during this critical time, we really wanted to keep our dialogue going. And we appreciate you joining us and being open to that. We will be offering more webinars episodes in the future, so just to keep track of that, I invite you to follow the education page, the education Facebook page. I posted the link on the chat, or you can just email me and I'll give you the information. That way you can maybe, either you can also suggest topics we could cover on our webinar series. If there's any particular topic you would like to learn more or us to expand on, please, we're open to that as well. And also keep check our Facebook page, because we try to put relevant information that educators, students, and parents can benefit from. And the Army has invested a lot in education programs for the community, and they're at no cost and no obligation to students and educators, using it. So please check that out. Now more than ever before, we're really trying to implement, virtual resources for remote learning. So to enhance, the remote learning for educators and to keep students engaged, the Army also has some virtual programs and resources that we'd like to share. I don't know if Abe could post my information. If not, it's not a problem. But today, I only just wanted to refer to 4 programs, 3 to 4 programs. We will be expanding more on that on future sessions. So it's just to at least let you know what we have. And again, we can go in depth later on with that. But pretty much, I just want to mention March to Success. If you never heard of it, please check www.marchtosuccess.com. It's a web-based program, and it's an essay. It was generated and created as an SAT, ACT prep course, but it has been expanded, and it's become a very comprehensive program where anyone getting ready for any standardized test can really get into March to Success and be ready for it. Among the latest additions, you have practice tests for the medical, for the MCAT, dental, and nursing programs. Besides that, you're going to find a STEM hub section. So basically, whether you're a high school student or you're a college student or you are an adult student returning to school, or you just need to get ready and brush up on some of these subjects, March to Success is the right place to go, because it's got resources at different levels for different levels of students. So please check that out. Again, we'll go more in depth into that. But I think that during this time, it's a perfect tool, even for teachers. If they want to enhance their online classes, they can integrate some of these modules into their class. So moving forward, you'll see on the right of the screen there a series of apps. The Army has created a lot of apps for chemistry, anatomy, sports fields. You have the football and soccer apps so that athletic coaches can use. Then we have a performance triad app. It's all about physical fitness and wellness. In particular, if it goes into nutrition, sleep, and exercise, how important the 3 of them are together. And then the last 2 that you see, the careers, Uncle Sam there in the U.S. Army, they're all more about career information, where you can either search by civilian occupation or military MOS and learn a little bit of what that entails, how to get there, what ASVAB score you need, and so forth. Then I just wanted to mention the ASVAB Career Exploration Program. That's a DoD program. I know a lot of educators are familiar with it now, because in the last few years, especially in New Jersey, it's been used as a graduation assessment. It's been one of the alternative assessments that districts have used. So I know they're familiar with the aptitude test. So with the one part of the component, one component of the program, but not very many educators know that the ASVAB CEP comes with an interest inventory and a career exploration program as well. So we really encourage educators to consider using that, because again, it's a free program, and once students do take the test for most of them we see they've been taking it for graduation purpose, but not necessarily. Let's help students explore their skill set, what they like, and just let's tie in some potential careers they may be successful in. So we provide workshops on that. It could be a professional development training for educators, but it's something definitely that encourage you to implement. And then the final piece that you see there is called AEOP. It's the Army Educational Outreach Program. It's basically an Army STEM, a portfolio of Army STEM programs, going from online student competitions to apprenticeship programs and internships. And also we have scholarship information for students pursuing STEM majors. There are mini grants for schools, and not necessarily schools, but any group of young men and women led by a volunteer who participate in these programs, especially eCyber Mission. I suggest you check that particular program. Once you're in eCyber Mission, you can also apply for mini grants to support your program. So there's a lot in there that, again, you may not know about, and I suggest you to check. Having said that, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to highlight. And we wanted to go to the Q&A section. I know I see a few questions there. I don't know what Colonel Tulin wants to do. We can definitely address this via email and respond to each of you if we cannot do it right now. But that's all I have, and I'll turn it over to Colonel Tulin. Thank you.
Thanks, Gio. And I'll just put in a quick plug, right? So Gio is our educational support specialist, right? So if anyone wants to reach out, I know she left her email address in the chat. I mean, there's more. The Army's got a program for basically everything. And, if you're looking for something, again, potential partnership opportunities, we're all ears. Right? I can't say we're going to promise to do everything, but there are a lot of resources at our disposal. Gio, I know it's about 8 minutes over, and I'm sure people will start to fall off. I did look at the questions. I think there's a few quick hitters we could answer, and maybe there's one kind of longer answer. So maybe we just go through them relatively quickly, so that we're promising we're doing what we promised here to answer them. So you want to just read them real quick?
I should probably unmute. I apologize.
Probably, yeah.
Yes, that would work. Yeah, I see one. It says, do you have any civilian positions for those who are hesitant to sign up as a recruit?
So, right off the bat, this the kind of simple answer is no, not necessarily through our battalion. However, we are an Army that is made up of soldiers, Department of the Army civilians, and contractors. So the Department of the Army routinely posts jobs that people could be interested in getting after. And a lot of those are posted on either usajobs.gov or whatever the local military installation is as they open on the GS system. I will say that sometimes we get a reluctance by I guess I'll call them like maybe sort of ultra professionals, people that have a professional career going. It's like, well, I want to serve, but I obviously can't give up, this, profession or this path that I'm on. The United States Army Reserves is a wonderful opportunity, right? To serve part-time, a ton of benefits, in my personal opinion, a ton of benefits based off of, really kind of what you're asked to do to give up in time. But again, job credentialing, some of the soft skills, get the benefits of military service without having to be an active duty full-time soldier. So the United States Army Reserves is something that we could answer if someone is pretty dead set on keeping their civilian career going, but also want to serve in some way. So that is an option. Gio, another question?
Yeah. Any suggestions as to how to change some mindsets of people with decision-making power who are not exactly pro-military, so that they may see the opportunities that the school district may be missing out of?
Absolutely. And, this is kind of one of the things that we, me personally deal with, which is trying to figure out how to tell the Army's message that it resonates. look, there are people out there who are not pro-military due to views of sort of what they see on TV or what they think the Army does. All I can tell you is that the Army, the role of the Army is to do what is asked of us by the nation. And sometimes, yes, that is Desert Storm, and sometimes it is deployments to some unsavory places. But I can tell you, my career has not been marked mainly by that. My career has been marked by problem solving, getting put in unique situations, and you see that in the video. Brave, we are setting up hospitals. We're, like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers took, I think it was 8 hotels, 8 dorms up at Columbia University, and built barometric chamber rooms, so that they were pressurized for COVID treatment and those types of things, pressurized rooms. It's just the wide variety of what the Army has done. I know that anyone who wants a career of service can craft a career in one of 150 different career fields. And, they don't have to take what we just offer, right? And so that is one thing. The other thing is the substantial benefits, right? And you can be pro-military, anti-military, but it's hard to dismiss the level of opportunity and benefits that come from military service. Sergeant Major of the Army Daily talked about it. So I have served 21 years in the Army. I went to college. The Army paid for some of that. I paid it back with the years in service. I continued going, and then the post 9/11 GI Bill came out, and now my son, who's 5, his college is taken care of. I don't need, because the Army gave me my master's degree for free, I didn't have to use that benefit to pay for my master's degree. I got that through the Army, no problem. So I have a bachelor's and master's, and now I have 36 months of paid college that I can give to my son, who's 5. I mean, those benefits are just, you can say you're pro-military or anti-military. It is hard to dismiss that level of benefit, and then we're talking, medical, dental, and again, just the benefits of service, learning, I went to the Bucks County IU when I first got here, which is kind of like, they help to try to promote programs in Bucks County. All the counties have them. All they talked about was how do we promote soft skills, punctuality, discipline, accountability, physical fitness, being able to make eye contact and have a conversation. That's what the Army is all about. And then the last thing I'll say, if anyone is really on the fence and they're not sure about what the Army is about, go to goarmy.com and look up what the Army values are. There's 7 of them, and they spell out the word leadership in an acronym, but that's what we're about. That is who we are. And, we do have some professionals who do some things that are probably on the one end of the spectrum as far as national security, but the vast majority of us are in the middle, and we have opportunities to craft a career how we want, living those Army values. So I hope that answers the question, but
I think
I know
Ariel,
that if you
wanted to add something. Ariel, am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Also, I want to just add that, you're going to have those naysayers. I think it's very important to listen to their concerns as well, to really understand where that level of myth is coming from. Like, why are you opposed to it? Come from a level of understanding, and then from there, connect them directly and have them speak with representatives. Just to help really debunk that. There are so many opportunities that the U.S. Army has to offer, and I think it's very important that they understand that. And I think the number one biggest misconception as it pertains to the military is that if I enlist, that I'm going to go directly to I'm going to go fight in a war. Because again, just like Lieutenant Colonel said, like it's what they see on TV, right? It's what they may think, but that's not the case. There are so many valuable careers, and maybe even finding somebody in our community that has served and getting them connected. I'm all about the power of connection. So I feel like that has worked, especially for a lot of maybe leaders or people in positions of influence who are opposed to the military as that valuable opportunity. I'm listening. Oh, this is what you think? Let me get you connected and you can talk so you can really learn. For us, it's the same thing of just learning about what they have to offer so that we can move past those just those disdains or, those reservations and come from a level of understanding, because it may not be for you. And that's the honest to God truth. It may not be for you, but it may be for that young adult, right? It may be for that person that's standing beside you that is actually interested, but just because of their opposition that they don't want to actually look into it. So I always say, come from a level of understanding, connect them directly to some representatives. And I know the whole entire team, Mike Giovanni, Captain Carroll, Lieutenant Colonel Tulin, everybody is more than willing to definitely come in and speak, understand, and say, this is what the U.S. Army has to offer. This is how we can service our young men and women, and this is how we can get them connected, because I would hate for somebody to lose out on an opportunity like this, especially from seeing the benefits that, from a personal standpoint, of my grandfather and my brother who, you know, didn't know what was next, right? But he knew that he wanted to do something, and he did not want to just stay at home. And it has afforded him to be able to not only travel the world, but he has plaques of just things. I'm like, where is this coming from, Jacob? But nonetheless, it all started with, you know, really just popping that myth. And he did enlist in a time of war, and he served tours, but his job and the impact that he's had to his community and everything else all came from just moving past those myths, or moving past those disdains, and saying, hey, this is a valuable resource, and this is a great career opportunity for me as a whole. So definitely understand and get them connected with one of the representatives.
And if I could jump into, I think our relationship here in the last 5 years in creating Steam Tank and being in front of board members and messaging to what the Army has to offer, and the benefits and the skill sets, like I mentioned earlier, I think that's extremely important. It's a different way of looking at the Army. Like, we're coming in through a student challenge, for example, and they're meeting the men and women of the Army, and they're seeing what they have to offer, and then they can have a conversation. But I think it's about awareness. You know, it's about awareness of what is being offered, what are the opportunities, and I think every student in New Jersey and in Philadelphia and elsewhere at least needs to know that. And so what we've done is created this partnership where we have a lot of opportunities in different venues that they can get to know the Army and see what's, you know, and see what's available.
Thank you. Sir, I'm not sure we want to move on to the closing remarks. I can address, we are going to address the other questions separately offline. Not a problem.
Really quick, I will say that this is being recorded and streamed live, so we will present the link after this is all done, so it will be available, and even those that weren't able to register, we'll be sharing the link out there and making sure, if people have the time, they're able to watch this.
Sir, over to you. Can you hear us?
Absolutely. And then, you know, as far as the New Jersey Association of College Admissions Counselors, I mean, the Army is, yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to, real quick, we're going to close this out. So I know there was a question from the New Jersey Association of College Admissions. The Army is very interested in college students, very interested. And so we'll get you an answer about participating in that virtual career fair. I just want to thank everyone for coming and for listening. And it means a lot to us that you would take time to spend time with us, Sergeant Major of the Army Daily, New Jersey School Board, Philadelphia School District. If you have any questions, please contact our teams. And, you know, we were there. We were looking for ways to partner and be out in the community, you know, and particularly now embracing the new normal. So thanks to everyone who listened. And I just hope everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend. And we all are continuing to stay safe. So thank you so much.